Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight I want to welcome two members of the Glasgow, Scotland band Sin Dogs to the show. They're here to have a little chat, so I've got David Cowan and bassist Nelson McFarlane here. So without any further ado, we're going to get this one started. But I will tell you this, we are going to have a little contest, so you could be a winner. So stay tuned and let's get going. Welcome to the Contrarians, and tonight I have a special interview. I've got two founding members of the band, Sin Dogs. I've got David Cowan, keyboardist extraordinaire, and I've also got Nelson McFarlane, bassist of the band. Both of these members are founding members. They're out of Glasgow, and they're here tonight to talk because recently you guys have reformed. You broke up, you reformed. You've got some new members. You've got some touring dates coming. You've got a new EP on the way and a new record. So we're going to talk about that tonight, and we'll just see where it goes. Gentlemen, how are you? Nice to see you.
Great.
Yeah, very well, thanks.
Good to speak to you, man.
Yeah.
For one, how's the band doing?
Doing well. Yeah, we're on a bit of a break now after some intensive recording, and we're going to begin going back into the rehearsal studio soon, and we've got some gigs coming up as well.
Excellent. But there's been a lot. I mean, you guys, 2018, was that when you pretty much formed? I mean, you did an EP back in the day, and then you had the first album, and that was all 2018. But when did the band actually form? How did that come about?
The band formed around summer of 2017.
Okay.
I was approached by the original guitarist and singer Zal Cleminson from the sensational Alex Harvey band. Initially, it was going to be an album that he wanted to do on his own, and he sent me some demos, wanted me to do some keyboard work on it, and I thought it was really good because he hadn't played for 10 years. He'd basically retired from the music industry. Okay. So this was a sort of comeback, and being an Alex Harvey fanatic, I was absolutely delighted to be asked. So we basically worked on a bunch of material, and before we knew it, we were kind of looking at each other going, wait a minute, this would be great as a band. Almost instantly after hearing the demos, we were like, we should do this live. So our next approach was, well, we need a band, and myself and Nelson, we're in an Alex Harvey tribute here in Glasgow called the Sensational Alex Harvey Experience.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know. All right, I'm learning something new every day. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're basically the only Alex Harvey band tribute in the UK.
And therefore the best one.
Yeah, automatically, you're by default.
By default, yeah. And he'd actually seen us a few times, and was very complimentary about how tight the band was and how close to the original the music was. So I suggested the band. He came over from Cyprus. He was living there with his partner at the time. Came over for a few rehearsals, tried it out, and it seemed to work. So we worked on that for a few months, done a few shows up and down the UK, and then we recorded the first EP, the self-titled EP, and then latterly the first album, Volume 1, and we just kind of snowballed from there, started playing bigger festivals going into 2018. I just kind of progressed from there.
So I'm assuming Zal knew you guys because you were doing the tribute band, and is that how you met him, or had you known him previously through just different channels or anything?
I'd met him a few times prior to that. I met him because I used to go and see them playing. They reformed in sort of 2004, 2007, and I went to see them in Glasgow quite a few times, and I was introduced to him because I knew the drummer. Ted McKenna, the drummer. So I got introduced to basically the whole band at that point. So I kind of kept in touch with him, and it just kind of happened from there. We just kind of kept in touch, and one thing led to another. And he knew that I could play the keyboards, and I think that's what he was initially looking for, was somebody that he could kind of collaborate with and write material with.
So I'm just curious. So you gentlemen met did you guys know each other prior to the Alex Harvey tribute band? I don't know. What is your history? Okay.
Another interesting twist is that I was always an Alex Harvey fan anyway, and I saw that Chris Glenn, the original bass player in Alex Harvey's band, was doing a solo gig in a small bar near where I live. And I went to see him, and I'd seen these guys play as the tribute band, and I met the singer who was ostensibly Alex Harvey. And I said, you guys haven't been playing for a while. He went, yeah, we can't find a bass player. And I said, well, you just have. So it just went from there, and we've been doing gigs ever since. So that's how many years?
Yeah, what year was that?
Probably, I think 2014, not...
It's around about then.
2014, 2015, I think. So I've been 8 or 9 years he's been part of it. He basically jumped in. He never even auditioned. He just went, I'm joining the band.
Well, Alex Harvey over here, they never really... They released records over here, but it never really took off. I think it was a bit too eclectic, you know.
It took off in certain areas in America.
Cleveland and Ohio and places like that.
See, I'm in Ohio. Yeah, I did hear that. Like up in Cleveland, they were huge.
Yeah, they played the Agora. Yeah. They used to play the Agora, and they recorded a live album there, if I'm not mistaken. Back in '74, they recorded a live album there.
It's like that. Todd Rundgren's big in Cleveland too. Like certain acts.
Why is that?
I don't know. Certain things take off. I couldn't tell you.
I mean, they perhaps it's down to the promotion and the record company that they don't spread it out or don't spend enough money. I don't know.
I don't know. I wish I knew the answer. I don't. Just some bands take off, but I don't think Alex Harvey. I don't know. It's probably more of a cult following now. You don't really hear anything. I don't think anything's played on the radio here anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
The music's a bit like Marmite. You either love it or you hate it. It's a lot of people don't get it. I think when people first see the band and they see the sort of costumes that they're wearing and the theatrics that they're doing, people are kind of like, what is going on? Is this a cabaret thing? Or they don't quite get it. And
it's kind of like Split Ends, you know. They were all that way too, and until they kind of changed up and Neil Finn joined and they dropped the whole shtick. I mean, they got I Got You was kind of a hit, but I don't know. It's just maybe just thought they were too eclectic, too eccentric. I don't know. Doesn't matter.
You got the right word there.
Too British, maybe, because you've heard some acts they could be too British for the United States. Like look at XTC, great band, you have to admit. But as brilliant as they are, they never really took off here, And just some bands, even though you can see the brilliant Roy Wood, The Move never took off here. As brilliant as Roy Wood is, no one knows who Roy Wood is pretty much. But we're on a tangent. See, gentlemen, I told you I was going to keep it loose and we're just going to have a talk.
It's cool.
So now we're just talking music. But anyway, back to you guys. But some things hit here, some things don't. But the thing is with my channel, I don't know. I want to promote these bands. And like you guys, you're getting back out there. You survived COVID. You reformed the band. You're starting new and fresh. You're hungry. You're ready to go. You got gigs. You've got records lined up. This is exactly the type of thing I want to help promote. So if we can get you guys more exposure here in the States, the better. So that's, I think that's what it's about.
Yeah. So the recording recently, I mean, I think we're taking a slightly different direction to the previous Syndogs lineup. There's more of a focus on Davy's keyboards, which to me is great because it harks back to the classic rock and metal lineup of guitar and keyboards with a singer. Like I'm thinking Deep Purple and Uriah Heep and all that. So it's that kind of model, and it's more classic rock than previously. It was pretty dark metal and it's impenetrable for some people. Industrial metal, that's right.
I just think that's interesting because if you think, back when it started, it was kind of Zal's thing. But you listen to Alex Harvey and you listen to original Syndogs lineup, it's like totally different stuff, which I'm not saying that's good or bad, but I'm just saying.
No, not at all. I think Zal's roots are obviously, they were very deeply sunk into heavy rock. Before the Alex Harvey band formed, they were actually called Tear Gas, and they were very heavy rock. And he always used to say in his interviews that was him basically going back to what he was wanting to do. Even in the Alex Harvey band, that was what he wanted to do.
Oh, cool.
He was a heavy rock guitarist, but they ended up playing Delilah and Boston Tea Party and things that he didn't really enjoy doing. So the Sin Dogs was the start of him basically going full circle in his career, and we carried it on for him. But as Nelson said, with the new lineup, it's very much taking a classic rock approach.
Well, the clips that you sent me and the ones that I heard, holy crap, Peter as a vocalist is a machine.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do. You're like you're saying, Nelson, there's a lot more keyboard focus. I thought a lot of it, let's say this, if you're like into Mark II Deep Purple, this might be the band for you. And I'm not saying that's what you sound like, but you're totally right. You're harking back to that early 70s. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Oh, my phone's
I'll take that compliment all day.
Sure,
sound like Mark II.
No, but you'd fit right in. I mean, Uriah Heep, holy crap, it's just like,
yeah.
If you like that, you'll love this.
There's not really many bands that are doing that nowadays. It's mostly like the two guitar stuff, and there's not that much variety. I mean, I think this guy gives us a lot of variety, and he's kind of the ace up our sleeve. So, mind you, so I have to say, so is Andy McLaughlin.
Well, Andy's a hell of a player. I was listening to his guitar, some of his stuff today, and I thought, oh man, you nailed it. In fact, you're all great.
He was a diamond in the rough. He really was. A great find, and not even just a great guitar player. He's a great guy. There's no ego about him, which is something that I'm really glad that we don't have in the band anymore.
Unusual for a guitarist.
Well, if they've been around a while and they're sought after, there's
no egos in this lineup now.
And then how did you guys end up finding Todd, or how did he come a part of the band?
Well, I think mutually we both knew him because he plays in the circuit. He plays in a band called Glasgow, who were our kind of rock band from the 80s that have reformed recently. And he also played in a band that I worked in for a brief spell called the Swampborn Assassins. So I did know of him, and when the drumming opportunity came up, right away I was like, Todd McLeod would be fantastic for this. And when we offered him the gig, he basically snatched it with both hands. He was right up for it, and he's loving it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, sounds like you guys are right on the right track. But usually in these interviews, I always like to ask members of the band, especially members of the bands that play instruments. I'm just curious, David, when you were a kid, what was the first thing? And this is a question for you, Nelson, too. When you guys were kids, what was the first thing, like when you're 13, 14, hell, it could even be earlier. What was like the first music you really heard that you went, oh my God, it changed your life. It's like the clouds parted, the water parted. And, did you ever have that moment where you were like, Jesus, I want to play keyboards. I want to play bass or guitar or whatever. I'm just curious.
Yeah, I started playing from an early age. I was 4 when I started playing, and
holy crap,
pushing 37. My
just
first
baby
music was actually Stevie Wonder.
Oh, cool.
But obviously, being a piano player and things like that, I was almost always influenced with funk and soul music. Originally, I wasn't actually a big fan of rock music growing up because my dad, he's a guitarist, but he's very into Black Sabbath, AC/DC, Pink Floyd, all your usual candidates. So when I was brought up with that, it was kind of getting installed in me, and to the point where I was just like, oh, I've got to change it. I don't want to listen to this again and again and again. But as I got older, I appreciate rock more now than I ever did. So I've got quite an open range of styles. But early on, as your question was, it was like people like Stevie Wonder, James Brown, Jamiroquai for a wee while. There's loads and loads, but it was always rooted in funk and soul for me at an early age.
I'm just curious, but if you're rooted like in funk and soul, how do you approach that when you're playing in the Sin Dogs? Does that upbringing, that style, how do you incorporate that in your playing now? I mean, that had to be a big influence. How does that type of thing incorporate into the Sin Dogs?
In terms of influence, the sort of rock playing kind of was later on. That was probably when I was in my early 20s. I started listening to bands like Dream Theater, started taking more of an interest in bands like Deep Purple and like John Lord, Don Airy, guys like that. Tommy Ayer's one of my favourite guys, and they were all in the rock genre. So as I got older and I started listening to rock more, because I didn't really join my first rock band until I was in my late 20s. It was
Really?
it was all
That's
funk
late.
bands, blues bands when I was younger. So that was my first kind of rock band, was back in the kind of early 20s. So listening to guys like Jordan Rudess and Derek Sherinian, these are the guys that I'm kind of looking at now in terms of the sound that I've got for Sin Dogs. That's the sort of approach where it's not overly dominating the music. It's like I want it to be sort of the guitar and the keyboards are playing together, and I'm creating this sort of blend round the guitar. Whereas I think before it was the original lineup of the band, it was very much a guitar orientated thing. I was just in the background. Because we had two guitarists at that point, whereas now there's only one. The keyboards have got more room to breathe, so the songs have got more room to breathe, and me and Andy can actually play off each other and complement each other. So that's kind of where my sound kind of came from. So I've got a diverse style. I can go from ABBA to Zappa, basically.
There you go. That's what you need, because you never know what you're gonna. All those influences pay off. So Nelson, what was your? I'm just curious. So what was your similar? Did you have a similar story? When did you start playing bass, or maybe did you start playing guitar first? I don't know.
I started playing guitar first, yeah, and I think I was really pretty young as well, and I was listening to pirate radio and heard Hendrix, and Hendrix just blew my mind, and I thought, right, that's what I want to do. And my aunt brought back this cheap acoustic guitar from Spain, and I noodled about in it, and eventually someone wanted to form a band, and we did. And of course, 15 people want to be a guitarist. No one wants to play the bass.
Yeah.
I ended up playing the bass. So I was always into rock from an early age. Until I kind of grew up in the 70s, so I really got into the disco and funk stuff as well. And I think the more genres you play or you like, you can bring them all together into your playing. And you can use, I've played in a traditional Scottish music band, and you can use things from that and bring it in, and just take parts from here and there, and that's all your all your influences, whether you know it or not, are going to be in your playing.
Yeah, it's true though. But all those influences and all that experience just adds up, and that's what makes these bands unique. Like I told you, I could hear a bit of Deep Purple, but it's to say you're a Deep Purple. No, you are your own band. You have your own sound, but it does link to the past to some degree, and I think that's very refreshing. Well, especially in today's music,
Oh,
well, yeah, that's a whole other discussion. But so anyway, okay, where are we at now? As far as you mentioned, you've got gigs coming up. So what's coming up for you guys?
We've got a few gigs in the central Scotland area, which more or less is just to get us up and running, and hopefully our local fans will come back and see us. And the kind of bigger gig that we're aiming for is in November in Troon, and there's a rock festival that's on there, and we're on one of the stages. And it's been, who's played it? Dead Daisies played it, and for Scotland, it's quite a big deal. And I really like the festival as well, because it's got a really good atmosphere, and it's been well supported across Scotland. So, and thereafter, we're going to be going for gigs further afield in 2024 once the album's finished and we get out there.
Michael Schenker's actually playing this festival as well.
Oh, really? The thing about those festivals, though, it opens you up to an audience that might not have ever come into contact with you, and it just totally opens you up, so it's a great thing. But Michael Schenker's playing too, huh?
Yeah, same night we're playing. We're on 2 bands or so before him. We're on a slightly different stage from him, but by the time our set's finished, we can basically go next door and watch him playing.
I'll be down
I'll be backstage.
Well, hopefully.
I don't get arrested.
Hang out right to the side, watch the whole thing. That'd be great. So where are you guys right now on the album Volume 2? Are you recording it? Is it done? Are you writing for it? What's going on with that?
The demos are pretty much done. Lyrically, we're probably about halfway there. And Peter's just very quick with the lyrical content. So I don't think it's going to take very long to get the songs finished. And as Nelson says, we're aiming to have the album done by the end of the year. But as it's 2023, that a lot of these musicians in bands are all in other bands. They've all got day jobs and things as well. So it's basically trying to find the time to get everything done. But that's the aim, and I think realistically that's when it will be out.
How do you guys handle the songwriting chores? I don't want to say they're chores, but how does everybody? So you're saying that Peter does all the lyrics. Who comes up with the music, or is it a group effort? Has the writing changed from the previous Syndog lineup?
The new material is predominantly been myself. I've kind of come up with the sort of riffs for the songs, but I write them on the keyboard. And Andy's that good a player that when I write the riff on the keyboard, I'll show him it and he'll go, yeah, I know what you mean. And then he'll plug his guitar in and he'll play it and I'll go, yeah, that's exactly what I had in my head. So the songs are coming very, very quickly. With regards to the original material, Zal actually had probably 3/4 of the material already.
Okay.
That he just wanted me to kind of help with. But there was maybe 3 or 4 of the songs that I've added parts to. But he wrote the lyrics and a lot of the guitar work, and I've just helped with the arrangements and certain other parts. But I've done more with this lineup than Volume 1.
So Nelson, I'm curious. So we've got new material. How do you approach the bass parts?
Well,
who are your big influences as far as bass playing? I mean, is there
Gary Thane of Uriah Heep, number one? The guy was a genius, and he's never got the attention that he deserved. And the guy's dead; he's been long dead now. But I would urge anyone who's interested in bass to listen to early Uriah Heep for the bass lines. The guy was a genius.
Yeah, no one's talking. I mean, people talk more about John Wetton when he was probably in Uriah Heep than, but Uriah Heep, that's one of those bands that I mean, I don't know. They could use some more love, though. I do know, I'm jumping on a tangent again. Those new Uriah Heep albums kick. They're putting out some great stuff now.
Yep.
And it's great.
And they're still doing some of the old material as well. But they're not doing the Gary Thane bass lines. So
it's a band I need to catch up with. Actually, it's not a band that I've personally listened to a lot, but growing up, I know that my dad and that listened to them quite a bit.
Thing is with these older bands, and again, it's back to our lineage, as it were, and is that the recording techniques back then were not as advanced as they are nowadays, obviously, and so some of the productions a wee bit dated sometimes. Whereas musicians can more or less record in their bedrooms now and get it mastered, and it sounds pretty good. So
if you've got decent mics, I mean, if you're using SM58s or 57s, that should be good enough. But it just depends. Yeah. So how do you guys approach how are you guys? Okay, from Volume 1 to Volume 2, was Volume 1 recorded in a studio, was it okay? How are you guys? What's the plan with Volume 2? How are you guys going to approach that?
With the same principle, we'll be going into the studio to record it. What we initially do is we record the demos. So, for example, if I've got an idea for a song, the first person I'll send it to is Andy. He'll put his ideas and his parts down, and then we'll send it out to everybody. The way I can approach songs is I try and write songs in a structure right away, so that it's actually easier for Peter to write the lyrics. So if I write it out and it's verse, chorus for talking's sake, guitar solo, then he knows exactly where he needs to write, rather than it just being an idea and then he goes, right, I don't really know where it's going. I try and structure it, and then I send it, as I say, to Andy, and then we put the demos together, we discuss it, is it good enough, is it not good enough, and then we just go into the studio and work on it, and everybody brings their ideas once it's tight.
Yeah, we do go into a rehearsal room and run over it. Run over it, and then it's recorded, and some of the parts can be sent prior to going into a studio to record it. And the arrangements that David does, my job is to annoy everyone and say, no, we should change that arrangement.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And then you can save some time in the studios because David can record at home, and so can Andy, actually. And in fact, so does Peter.
And Todd. All of us can do it.
All of us do
Todd
it,
can record his drums.
Some of these bands, they all phone it in. Like the latest Styx record, I can't remember what the name of it is, but everybody recorded everything in their home studios. and everybody just traded files pretty much. Of course, they recorded that during COVID, so a lot of people weren't getting together. But that seems to be like some of the norms. But I think you also can miss that band, unless you're in a band that hates everyone. But you kind of miss that band, unity or whatever, that creativeness that you get from playing a band or being in the studio.
Yeah.
Well, with the EP that we've just recorded fairly recently, we were in the studio. We were all in the studio for that.
We all played together.
Yeah, we all played together. It was almost like a live recording. It's got some overdubs on it and so on. But you do need, there's a bit of eye contact, particularly between the bass player and the drummer. And you need to have that, and I think it's worked out really well.
Sounds good. In all honesty, I think the new EP actually, production-wise and probably performance-wise, is actually better than Volume 1.
Yeah.
To me, it stands out better because we were never happy with the overall production in Volume 1. It was okay for the budget that we had and things like that. But compared to what we've got now, it's just cleaner, it's fresher, it's got more bite to it. Whereas I think Volume 1 was a bit overproduced. It wasn't raw enough. But yeah, the players are all different on this one as well. So there's a new energy. I think you can actually feel the energy of this because everybody's enjoying what they're doing. And we had time. This was the thing. We had time, a lot more time recording this than we did in the first album.
Time helps, because you remember back in the 60s and the 70s, man, bands were putting out 2-3 albums out a year, tour, make an album. It was just like a production line. Nowadays you can take 4 or 5 years in between albums, so it was probably good that you guys took that time, develop the material.
The model has changed, as you probably know this, but the model has changed so much since the 70s or 80s or even the 90s. Now bands make money going out on tour and selling merch, whereas the CD is really like a calling card, and you're practically giving it away, and people get to know you through those recordings.
Yeah,
and then they'll go and see you playing live. And I've not got a problem with that. It's just it's very different nowadays.
Yeah.
Well, there's no record industry really.
No. Not really.
And it's all about, promotions like this, doing like an interview and throwing it out there, throwing it out on YouTube. That's promotion now. There's just no, I still have a hard time. I'm so used to it. Because you remember when I was a kid, there would be like a new Todd Rundgren album coming out and you would read about it like in Rolling Stone.
Yeah.
Oh, you'd look and they'd say, oh, here's what's going to be coming out in June. And you could hardly wait, like a new Styx album, I'm just saying. And when I was a kid, it's, oh my God, it's going to be out. It's going to be out in 2 weeks. It's going to, now it's just, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, but I kind of miss that,
Yeah.
I think musicians were just put up on pedestals, and when you're just young and you just have that passion for music, you just look forward to it. There was only so many places where you could learn about it,
My theory is that music is now a less valuable commodity to a lot of people, and there's also too much music. It's kind of like Netflix and all these channels. There's so much you've not got enough time to watch everything, and you've not got enough time to listen to everything. And Spotify, God, you could be there until you die listening to everything that's on Spotify.
But when you had like a record company promoting it, they put money behind it. Promotion. How do you really promote anymore? It's horrible for a musician,
Yeah. I remember my dad telling me years ago that he used to go to a shop on a Saturday when the new album came out and it was vinyl.
Yeah.
And he would be so excited to get it. And then he'd be looking through the sleeve, he'd be looking at all the photographs, reading all the stuff. And it was like a whole day event for him. He'd be away up the town early in the morning and he would be all excited. And then he'd go and see them playing that night because he was obviously promoting the album. Yeah. So he'd go to there was a very well-known venue here called the Apollo back in the day. And a lot of big bands used to come here. So now you don't have that. And as a musician, as a young-ish musician, I wish I had experienced that. To be able to go into a record shop and just be like, oh, my favourite band.
Yeah.
And,
I was at a Rush convention at the weekend, right? And it was
The
tribute band.
band Rush?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there were people there who were album cover designers and the sister of Neil Peart.
Oh,
And
really?
yeah, these people were being treated like rock stars because everyone that was there were the people who did what you just described and were out buying the album because it was a big event. I mean, it'd be good to know how many albums were released in a week in the 70s and 80s as compared to today. I suspect today is going to be way, way more.
Yeah.
Could be, but just no one can find them,
Well,
So the EP is out, correct?
not until the end of June.
End of
June. How can people get the EP?
They can buy it from our Facebook site and from our website, which is being worked on at the moment.
Okay.
It'll also be available for download or for streaming as well.
Okay. So is that going to be like the traditional outlets? You could go Apple Music, I guess, or
Yeah.
Apple Music.
So that's the end of June. Let's jump to volume 2, the new album. When should we expect that? And is there anything else you can tell me about it? I mean, we've talked about that you're working on writing the songs and stuff. So, but the release, you're planning to have that released when?
Round about the end of the year, all going well, the end of 2023. It's already got a title as well. It's called Volume 2, The Next Testament.
Okay.
We've even got a cover already.
We have
You got the cover art ready too?
Yeah, the artwork's done. We know exactly where we're going to record it. As I say, the songs are pretty much heading in the right direction for being finished. We've got about, I don't know what we got, about 15 songs that we'll just obviously condense down, pick the best ones out of it. So there's more than enough material there for it. But yeah, The Next Testament is the name of the album, and we never actually said what the EP was called.
Oh yeah. The EP is called Renaissance, but spelled Renascene.
Okay.
I can't remember the difference, to be honest, but the dictionary description is slightly different from Renaissance, which is French in origin, I think.
That's what I was going to say, and that's why I pointed to him, because I knew I'd get it wrong.
Well, that's right. I could barely pronounce your names in the beginning, so I understand.
Basically, it's just like the next stage of the band, and whilst we'll respect our past, we're now looking forward.
100%.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great things down the road. I mean, I'll put some links down there to you guys playing live. I mean, everyone should check these guys out. I can hardly wait to hear the EP and hear that new record, because if anything, we need something in today's music. You guys might be the answer, and it still sounds fresh, and you can just hear that excitement in the band. You can just hear the freshness, Yeah, it's a bit traditional, and I'm not saying that's bad. It's a wonderful return, But I feel like there's going to be a lot of good things for you guys down the road. So glad that you're out there cranking it. Gigs are coming. It's exciting,
I mean, at the moment, we've only actually done 2 shows with the new lineup. So there's not a lot of footage of us playing live yet, because the majority of the time we've actually spent in the studio writing.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we've got three or so gigs for the rest.
There is that video I saw that's like kind of a compilation from, well, it's like from 2022. You guys are playing.
Yeah.
That's
that was
out there.
In Glasgow that we done. It's basically a charity gig that the Alex Harvey Experience actually headline every year. And when the Sin Dogs had reformed, the guy that runs that, guy called James Hogg, he's a good friend of the band, asked the Sin Dogs to do a wee set on the night. So we literally had just rehearsed a handful of times and basically just got on stage to see how the songs were going to sound in a live environment. So it was very early for that lineup, so it's a bit rough and ready. We were just kind of getting gelled together, and we just wanted to play. The second gig was basically a month or so after that. And we just kind of wanted to get out there and play. But as I say, we've only got 3 gigs now confirmed. So the more gigs we do, obviously, the tighter band will be. And as I say, we've been in the studio recording.
Well, I'm sure. Go ahead.
I think some of the videos that are available, they're a bit of a blessing and a curse, because people with the best of intentions go along with their phone and record some stuff where the audio is pretty poor. Now, any publicity is good publicity, but people should bear in mind that these are not professionally made videos that are up online at the moment. We are going to work towards getting some professional video done to tie in with the album, but it's just not ready yet.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it will be ready soon.
Yeah,
and, sure. People here are looking for stuff. Everybody wants to hear something new, Yeah. This is refreshing.
Good stuff.
Hopefully we can get some excitement over here in the States for you. I'll do what I can. I can do what I can. So let's talk. We haven't talked a lot about Todd, your drummer. We've talked about Andy. We've talked about Peter. What about Todd? What's his deal? I mean, you kind of knew him before, correct? And then he came into the band, right?
Yeah.
So
Todd,
what's he bring? What does Todd bring to the band?
Solidity and very much a powerhouse drummer, known almost as Todd brackets Loud McLeod. If you get to stand next to this guy, when he's hitting the snare drum. My God, it's
loud, huh?
Yeah, he's a loud drummer, but he's a very good drummer, really solid. He's on the money, and he's a great addition to the band, to be honest. And I think him and I work well together, and long may it continue. And I'm sure this will be pretty obvious on the album. It is already on the EP, but Todd's great.
Yeah, he's a very solid drummer.
Yeah.
He's probably, if not, one of the most enthusiastic in the band as well. I mean, he's got various projects going at the moment, but he's basically saying to all of us, like, this is my main thing. He wants to put everything into this, which is encouraging for us, because we want everybody to obviously put an element of commitment in. We all have different things going on, but if we all have that element of commitment, then things will work quicker and we'll be able to do more and more things. And I think we're quite lucky that we've got that the guys are really enjoying what they're doing, and everybody's playing well. The material's just free flowing, and I think for the long term of the band, I think it's just going to get better.
I agree. I think it's going to be some great stuff down the road. I'm looking forward to these releases, and you guys are onto something.
Hope so.
Onto something.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
All right. Well, I guess we've done it. Well, I want to thank David Cowan and Nelson McFarlane from the band Sin Dogs today. It's a great discussion. Thanks for coming on. EP's on its way. The record's on its way. Stay tuned. There's links below. Is there anything else you needed to mention before we wrap this up, gentlemen?
I think we might be putting together a small competition.
Yes.
Yeah, we could offer some a bundle of Sin Dogs merchandise, T-shirts.
Sin Dogs goodie bag.
Yeah.
Yes, so, we will be having a competition. More of that to come. But yes, there will be a little bit of a goodie bag. Do you want to tell them what's going to be in the goodie bag real quick?
Yeah, it's going to be a T-shirt. There's going to be a copy of the first album, Volume 1, and a copy of the EP, which is called
Renaissance.
So that'll be in the dog treats.
Thank God he was here to pronounce it. That's all I'm going to say.
Got stickers and badges and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, send whatever to the lucky winner. But there'll be more to come on that. So stay tuned. Yeah. So we will have a giveaway here. So, all right, gentlemen, I want to thank you. And this has been fun. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for reaching out. It was just a blast. And I wish you guys luck. And I'm sure we'll be in conversation.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thanks again, Greg. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Please like, subscribe, and look forward to that competition that's coming up. So.